Well, howdy, partners. We're here for another rootin', tootin', gun shooting, Wild West experience at Fine Lead. Yeah! but this time, Ian went too.
Hello, I went to a LARP that is not Empire, and
So exciting, bro.
Short's version is... It was fucking awesome.
I know it's awesome.
Yeah.
And it was so good to see you get out there and do the awesome.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to go through the events, but I'm like, we need to make time at the end just to kind of hear.
Yeah, I think I want to talk about that as well. Because a lot of people were asking me, actually, about it at various points during the event. And I think people at the time weren't fully satisfied with my answer. And I think we'll get to that when we get there, because... I think it's very important to keep in mind where I am in LARP, in Empire, as well as where I am going to Flying Lead. But Flying Lead was fucking very good.
Spicy.
It was very
spicy.
Good. Wow, where to start? Should we just start?
Okay. I'm like, Flying Lead sells out really, really fast.
Yes.
You were like, I think I can go. I was like, okay. They sell out super fast.
Yeah.
I was there at like 7:30.
We both were.
The F5 button. Got the tickets.
Oh, so good.
And it was so exciting. And it was like, oh fuck, Ian's going to be attending another fucking LARP.
Oh man,
I was so excited. Okay, you talk now, Ian.
Yeah. So, man, I was like. Well, also, it was going to be your birthday, which was a huge thing as well. So it's like, not only is it like a new LARP, and they get to do all of that stuff, and it sounds really exciting. I like Flying Lead is one of the ones I've always wanted to go to. There's something, westerns, all of that stuff is immediately arresting, and it's very different to Empire. Right? It's not like if I'd say gone to Lorien Trust or something, it'd be another fantasy LARP, and I'm sure that would be great. But this is very different. Right? This is this is moving into a different genre, different fantasy, right? So it's like, oh man, I can make like a very different character. Then of course I started going through character thoughts in my head. The first vision I got in my head of the character I'd like to play, who I actually didn't end up being too much like, well, you can be the judge of this, was Tim Roth's character from The Hateful Eight, London Jack, I think he's called.
Yeah.
I liked the idea of being like a bit of a huckster, a bit of a charlatan, bit of like a little bit of a cheeky lad, but with also a little bit of class. But it's kind of like that faux, sort of like almost like London gangster kind of style class that's kind of built in. And I really like his look as well. So that's something that I tried to sort of emulate a little bit.
You did. Yeah, that's really cool. You had your little bowler hat on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! And this is another thing. So I like. There's been a lot of stuff going on, like OC, and obviously Empire's been a big thing. And the event was coming closer and closer, and all of a sudden it was right there, like a couple of weeks away. And I was like, man, I've actually got to go out and get myself the kit and start doing the things. And I went to basically all the charity shops in Cambridge, pretty much, and was like looking around, trying to find stuff, and I didn't find anything. Like anything. Yeah. And I came home after an entire day of just like hardcore missioning.
You seemed so disheartened when you came back.
I was like, this is a real problem. Right? This is a real problem because I haven't found anything. So I was like, got in touch with Ellie, who is our good friend and is just very experienced at this kind of stuff. And I was like, Ellie, help. Because I couldn't find anything. And it was one of those things where it's just like, I sent her some reference pictures of the kind of stuff I was looking for. So I sent like some pictures of Tim Roth. I also sent some pictures of I think Bill from Tombstone, and in his like gambling attire. And I was like, somewhere in between these two characters. And she just sent me a bunch of eBay links, basically, and explained like the type of thing to look for. So, for example, a waistcoat with a very high V, right, and stuff like that. Like, and then all of a sudden, I bought a few things that she suggested, and then all of a sudden I went to charity shops and I was like, oh, I can identify. Now I understand that like a 3-button suit, which is high and is cut a certain way, is actually, when I'm wearing it with these other things, going to layer up and actually achieve the effect. It was so good.
Everyone needs a pocket Ellie just to...
Yeah, it was...
Or any fucking costume expert. And it's weird, the subtleties in costume, right? Where you're like, what's the difference between a suit and a suit that fits?
Yes.
It's like the I didn't even think about the neckline thing, but that's really interesting.
She just broke it down really easily into and like simple examples of like, this is the type of thing you're looking for, and obviously high wall content and a bunch of stuff and all these kind of things. And I managed to piece together this kit I was really happy with, considering I did it in like 2 weeks, week and a half before. I had this nice jacket that had like leather patches on the elbows. Mm-hmm. I had like an overcoat which I hardly wore because it was too hot. I had a gold backed but red fronted waistcoat which had like, and I had like a gold cravat and a little gold tie.
You look great.
Kind of these nice kind of like corduroy trousers that worked really well with it. And then I just then I accessorized. I had like this kind of ruffly white shirt, which is something I really wanted, with cufflinks, gold cufflinks as well. And then it was just the most expensive thing. All of this was fairly cheap, by the way. So actually getting the kit was like really, really cheap because it was all charity shops and eBay stuff, right? The hat was the most expensive thing, and even that wasn't so bad. That was like 36 quid for I wanted like because I was looking in like but basically there's like normal bowler hats and then there's like tall bowler hats, and that's what you want to achieve that look. The tall bowler hat really made it pop off. And I got myself a little gold hip flask and a little like a big old belt buckle, and yeah, it was great. I was having a cracking time. It was
so fun when we got to site and you headed off and got changed. And then when you came back, I was like looking at you come across, and I was just like, everyone was like, "Yes, Ian, yes."
It was nice because like, so for character in my head, the way I was thinking of it, there's a character in a series by Joe Abercrombie, The First Law, called Glockter. He's a right son of a bitch.
He's the best. He's my favourite literal character, I think.
Yeah, and he talks with like a lisp. And I've kind of played in a D&D campaign we ran a gnomish inventor who was kind of like a chirpy version of that sort of style voice.
A nicer version.
A much nicer inventor. Actually, a really kind of quite wholesome character.
Yeah, really wholesome.
But I decided I did want to be a bit more of a bastard. So I decided I would do like... So my character in the D&D campaign was called Kismet, so I was like to Dave, I'm going to do like an evil Kismet. And it's interesting because ultimately I did play a bit of a bastard, but not that much of a bastard, actually.
It was funny. Like, I didn't see you be a bastard, but then again, Hennessy...
Yeah.
A lot of people think Hennessy's the nicest guy.
Yeah.
Because... he's not a bastard all the time.
Yeah.
But, like, Jasper... what was your character name?
Jasper Gallows was my character.
Jasper Gallows.
Yeah.
Like, Jasper Gallows is a thieving bastard.
Yes.
Right?
A real thieving bastard. We'll get to that, because I rinsed the stagecoach multiple times.
We'll talk about that later. So, last event, me and Callum, who plays Mr. Taffy, I came by... perfectly legitimately a large sum of money, and we decided that we were going to open a business. And we talked about this for a while. At one stage it was going to be a cat house, and we were going to have like, you would go around back and play Connect 4, and then we would give you a card, and the card would have like something on it, like you have developed an itch, and therefore you have to go and see a doctor about this. Sure. Talked to the guys at LARP, and it was just like, this is too complicated. We're going to make this a lot simpler. A lot of kind of inclusivity stuff, which I agree with, and I don't think this should be something that's like done wholesale, but we would like to make things really fucking simple. It's a saloon.
Yeah.
We're going to have booze, we're going to have cards, we're going to have gambling, guns are welcome.
Yeah.
And we decided that we were going to call it the Devil Dog Saloon.
Yeah. And so realising that there was going to be like a saloon and that had this kind of vibe to it, I kind of like at Empire, I'm a bit of a camp mum anyway. I like running around and being like food and drink provider and just generally like fussing over people a bit, but also like providing a bit of aesthetic for the place. So when I knew that there's going to be this saloon made, I was like, man, I've got itchy Ian crafty fingers and they need to start making things. So I set about making a whole bunch of stuff for the saloon. I did like...
You went full on.
Yeah.
Everyone did, to be fair.
Yeah, everyone did. Yeah, everyone... That we dressed the place up really nicely, I think. I did like... I did coasters. I did disposable cups with a little logo on it.
Which came in really handy, by the way.
Yes, which did come in really handy. We'll have to make some more of those for next time, because we literally went through all of them. I did these 4 paint sort of pictures to go on the wall, which were like pictures of devil dogs, but all dressed up like cowboys or gunslingers and stuff, that were kind of posted around the place on like these kind of messy picture frames, which are just like picture frames I'd kind of tarnished.
They were so good. We had like picture frames. I bought a keg. We had jimbongos. We had soft drinks.
Loads of food as well.
We had a big... Callum ordered a big devil dog saloon sign for outside.
That was great.
I bought a big fuck off American flag to put out front. It was great. A guy lent us... some benches.
Yes, dude, that was great.
It was...
I bought a bunch of Liar's Dice as well.
Yeah, Liar's Dice.
And I got these kind of vintage looking cards. I got a couple of sets of those. Man. It was so nice,
It was
dude.
full on.
It was great. Setting the place up was so cool.
It was just great having a base of operations that was ours. It was just a fucking cool thing. There was also the election for the mayoral election.
Yeah.
So Mayor Carson was up for re-election.
Yeah.
But they put it open to players this time, which I thought was really interesting.
That was
so
cool.
A few people had made a few bids, including Mr. Taffy, which you assisted him with.
Yeah, he. So Callum got in touch and was like, "I'm doing a mayor bid. Do you fancy helping with a poster?" I had some free crafty time on my hands, so I was like, "Yes, I will do that." So I made like a very populist poster for Mr. Taffy. It was like literally kind of very Gellert style how I'd done it for you. It was pretty much like, vote Mr. Taffy for a greater tomorrow or something.
Populism.
Because
it works.
So that was good fun. He had this great picture of Mr. Taffy kind of like looking up with like an open smiling face, his sort of hands.
He was looking at fireworks at the time.
Yeah.
So it's the perfect kind of like look of wonder.
Yeah.
And you put like the American flag behind him
as a starburst,
as a
with all these stars.
Yeah, it was like proper. It was the American dream in poster form, basically.
I'll try and remember to put some of the graphics up online so people can see if they're on the Facebook page. I'll try and do that.
Yeah.
Man, and in fact, if you go onto the Facebook page, you'll see I posted up an event we'll get to later on there, which was very cool, which they let me do. So yeah, that was pretty much the other stuff for pre-LARP. As I say, it was your birthday heading into the event, so that made it kind of special.
Yeah, 21 again.
And also Millie was going as well. Yeah. So me and Millie basically decided we would become the Silver Foxes, which was like our little sub gang.
She played like an old lady, which I was like, I tried to warn her against because playing an old person is a proper pain in the arse at a LARP system. But she seemed to take to it like...
Oh my gosh, Phyllis was amazing. Phyllis was a fucking icon. She was the moment, dude.
Yeah.
Like, Millie absolutely killed it.
I don't recommend being an old person at LARP unless you like self-flagellation like Millie does, and therefore I fully recommend it if you're a person that cannot not do the bit.
Yeah, it made so much game as the event went on, and actually like our little relationship that we set up was really good fun. But anyway, we were going to be camping together. And obviously you guys, because the whole point was as well that we were sort of separate from you guys and we would kind of get introduced to you guys.
Well, the plan was that we were going to have, you were going to be my dude, my outside, my ringer coming in from out of town to fucking help me out.
Yeah.
We didn't really fucking do much with this. We did a little bit of this, but like...
you were off doing your own thing quite a lot, and so was I, to be fair.
Comes towards time in.
Yeah.
We have our safety briefing.
Which was really good, by the way. Or the way they do the briefing. And I think it's something about having the player size. You can have everybody gathered around a point. And you can read through 9 I think it turned out to be 10
Yeah.
pages of rules in essentially a forum style area where you can literally go through it all, make sure everybody's on point with everything, and then kick into Friday.
Oh yeah, and I asked a question, and Johnny turns to me and goes, "Yes, Dave Winpenny," and I was like, "That's."
It's so funny.
I felt so called out. I felt doxed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, so funny.
So funny. I felt like, I'm being singled out.
Yeah.
But really funny.
Yeah.
So at the start of it, I was like, I said to you, and there was a couple of other new folks there. Like, I won't go into all their names, but there was a couple of basically, I had a whole bunch of homies go this time, and there were some new players, and I was like, do you know what you should do? You should start in town, and it didn't cross my mind because I was like thinking about the game and how the game's run, but I was like, afterwards, I was like, you set off like you were just off doing your thing.
Yeah.
And it was so good to watch you just being like...
It was really good. I think it was just the right thing, because the thing is, otherwise, we would have shuffled over to you guys, introduced ourselves, gone through all that RP, and then all gone into town together. Yeah. This actually worked much better, because then it's like, we get to kind of meet some people
You're
in town.
introducing yourself.
Yeah. It was really nice. It was really fun. And also, it gave me and Millie a chance to walk around town together, being rapscallions and introducing ourselves to people. And it instantly set up this whole dynamic where Millie decided that... And she just came up with this thing of like, she's looking for another husband. And she's on. The number of husbands she had over the course of the event just kept increasing.
Yeah,
until it reached ludicrous levels.
They all died in tragic circumstances.
Yeah. And quite early on, I don't know exactly when, she met a character called Wyatt, who is played by a friend of ours, and at some point they just came up and said, I found husband number whatever, like 32 or whatever, and the number had increased rapidly at that point, and it was so good. It was like, because it was one of these things where I think everyone is convinced that Phyllis is going to pop her clogs at any moment, and they're going to be in to get the inheritance, but she outlasts everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Like, it's a death sentence marrying that woman.
Yeah, it was so good. But yeah, also walking around town, we met, I met two preachers. One was played by this chap who was like bandaged up, called Blackjack, who was really super cool. I decided that Jasper isn't really religious, and he kind of reviews, but he's, it's that sort of era, so everybody is slightly religious, but has their own he has his own view of religion, where the Lord works in mysterious ways, and mysterious ways gives you a lot of shuffle room for opportunity.
I agree. Like, if Hennessy's the same. If Jesus wanted to be dead, he would have killed me by now. Yeah. I have exactly the same thing. Yeah.
I had this whole thing as well, because we had set up this slight thing with our characters where the whole Jasper Gallows thing, people kept asking me about, that sounds like that, that as in the Hangman's Noose. And it was like, well, the fiction of it was that you saved me from the Hangman's Noose somewhere in the old world, like a while ago. I was imagining France or something. You did the old shoot you the rope and saved me. I think I may, when I was drunk, have told people that story at some point during the course of the event. But
that's the perfect time to tell people.
Yeah. It was that was the fiction of the character, that like he'd sort of taken this name on, and there was this bit. I don't know how much we can say about this, so feel free to cut this. You came up and you introduced yourself, and I said, "Is it? I'm Jasper."
Yeah.
And it was, I can't really say any more than that, but it was like, it was fun to be like the idea.
We can talk about it. There's like one more event.
Yeah.
People are cool. How cool is it? Just the town with all these characters.
Yeah, and it's actually really lovely set up. Like, it looks like a Western town. Like, it literally, it's not just a set of tents or anything like that. It looks like a Western town.
Yep.
They've gubbins the whole place up. Also, like the OC sellers, who like the people who sell the guns and the stuff like that, they're all there down this separate strip. All of their stuff's like on point and looks like it literally is. If you walk down to the place to get your gun, it looks like you're walking down to a place to get a gun.
Yeah.
Right? In an old
The
West
saloon
town.
looks like a saloon.
It's fantastic.
All the different characters, because it's such a great time period. And also what I love about it is, like, if you show up to Navarre, everyone identifies themselves as Navarre.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's a fest LARP thing, and I think it's required. But in a Wild West town, there are so many different ways you can approach the Wild West.
Yeah.
That you have this really great mix of, like, trappers wearing furs, English noble people wearing top hats, badass gunslingers, like charlatans, doctors, sweet like Mary Jane types who are like, you know, like Southern Belle looking people. It's like, it's
the
really
costuming
good.
kit was so good across the board. I was so impressed.
We did time in at the Devil Dog Saloon, which I think is right. So it was me and the Sticky Hand Gang, which was led by Mr. Taffy and a few of his cohorts. And I had my man Ruben, who is the person who was down on his luck, had hired me to be his protection when he had drew his gun in a giant standoff when I told him to. I decided to give him back his $20 because he did exactly what I told him to. And Ruben thinks that we're friends. Whereas Hennessy thinks that Ruben will do anything that Hennessy says, and that is true. And it's like, poor fucking Ruben is like the most abused character ever. I sent him off on so many ridiculous errands, and like, I like the idea of, like, if Hennessy shoots someone, he's going to get Ruben to go and bury the guy. You know, like...
Yeah, it was so cool actually walking around town, and even though you weren't there, and Miss Taffy wasn't there, and some other characters weren't there as well, like Eve wasn't there, like, people were talking about you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it was like little name drops, like...
positive things, I hope.
Oh, yeah. Well, more like, don't do that, you might get shot kind of things. But it was cool because it did sell this whole idea where people will kind of like... And this is kind of one of the great things of the system and the way it's set up, and the way, if you like, the combat system is set up, is like, you choose basically when you're taking your hits and you're working in a cinematic
and when you die.
Yeah, with the exception of like High Noon or something like that, which literally has a mechanic. But like that aside, you're basically kind of creating cinematic moments, which means that people can enable one another to live out the fantasy of the character, and in your case that is a badass gunslinger.
If it was airsoft, I'll probably be rubbish. But the threat of Hennessy Jones is this big dark shadow that's like, well, Hennessy Jones might fucking kill you if you fuck with him.
Well, that was very much the vibe. That was very much the vibe, which was very cool.
That's cool. Oh, I love that. I love that.
Because I don't know if you ever hear that stuff, because you're never there when you're not around, right? Obviously. So it was, that was kind of a vibe. Not like loads of times, but I'm saying just walking around town, a couple of people, I heard murmurings about Hennessy.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah, and people asking when Mr. Taffy was going to turn up and stuff, because I had business with him and things like that. Bear in mind, I don't know any of these kind of things, but it was kind of fun.
Was it jarring coming into an established town, or did you feel... Because I got the impression you seemed to just go into it like a duck to water, man.
It massively helped because, obviously, I knew you guys. It also helped because I had Millie, and we were immediately a duo, and then very quickly a trio when Wyatt joined up with us, which led to absolute hilarity. And we immediately started getting like characters that we were very much associated with. So I would talk to Blackjack quite a lot. As I say, we had this whole thing of like... so basically, I think Blackjack's interpretation of what my motivations were for helping out the church was different from mine. My idea was that, yes, you should create a guild, like get all the preachers together, get all the people in one place to conduct sermons. That was more because I was thinking like having lots of people congregated in one place breeds opportunity. And that's because it also breeds opportunity if you're there or not. It's basically like And change breeds opportunity as well, and that's very much who Jasper is. He likes going in there and sort of seeing, okay, at the moment we don't have really, the town doesn't have organised religious ceremonies. It didn't seem that way anyway from the outside thing. So I was like, you should do that.
There's usually a preacher who does run church, but he wasn't there.
Okay.
Well, they weren't there. There's a couple of them. But, yeah, we'll talk about Sunday.
It was cool anyway, so I was like, the perspective shifts and the way you're kind of playing with characters was really fun. So there was that element of it. Also, I think the system and the size of the game lets you become an established character a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And this is where I think, as I spoke about this earlier, people were asking me a few times during the event how it compared to Empire, because I'm sure everybody's naturally curious. It's very important to say, in Empire, I played Talus, and I have the privilege of playing Talus, and I've been playing him for a very long time. The character is very established.
He's a very large character.
Yeah, and there's a lot that I've kind of built up over time. So it'd be very difficult to say, like, Talus is he's actually like an important character to me, right? So it's like, it'd be difficult for me to say Jasper was suddenly more than Talus, because that's never going to be that way. But it was interesting to see how quickly... and I'm sure you could maybe do this in Empire, but it was interesting, and maybe this is just me being a more experienced role player in LARP. It was interesting to see how quickly I could establish myself within the fiction of a place and become recognisable to the state where people would come and talk to me, and I could make game with them that actually impacted things.
I agree, that's true. I also think it's something about the attitude of players that attend iLARP events. That goes to NPC players as well, but there's like that people are interested to know about your character,
very much
right?
so.
Like they want to know, who is this new face and what are they about, and like what game can we get off interacting with each other.
I think that was definitely true. I had also, because we were the new people to town, there was me and Phyllis walking along, these new people, that some people were maybe kind of feeling us out if we were potentially like marks.
Yeah.
And we try to make it quite clear that we were the marquees.
Yeah.
Not the
We mark, we're not marquees. Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So it was kind of fun. Doing lots of what I like about LARP in general as well, as you kind of develop a shorthand, because we've all watched the movies, right? We've all watched the cinematic universes that these things are based in. People understand if with a kind of couple of key phrases. If I ask you what your line of work is, and you say, this and that, variable line of work, people get that you're a shifty person, right? And they'll start playing into the idea that you're a shifty person. Yeah. And it's not like they're just going to call you out. They will let you play the game of being a shifty person. Yeah. I think that's important, because it's like...
Well, it's the cinematic version of it. Right. Like, there's the under the surface, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Like, when people go, a person like me in my line of work. And they're like, what line of work is that, Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
And I'd be like, this and that. I try to plant crops, but everything I touch seemed to die. Like it's
those kind of lines.
Like that's all you need to do to be like, I kill people for a living.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Yeah.
I kill people.
Yeah. And it's like people will go there with you to sell the idea that you're a badass, and you also reciprocate this with other people. And I think there's a natural way of, and there's something about the Western fantasy, because bear in mind we are playing the fantasy West. We're not playing the real West, and I think that immediately allows us to engage in all of those fun fictions, which the West is fantastic for. You have these kind of very romantic stories, if you like, of what that kind of era was like, with all the grit that kind of goes in there as well. And I think there's something quite cinematically tangible about that, which maybe isn't so immediately capturable in something like generic Fantasyland, which, sure, you've got all of that D&D stuff and all of that kind of Lord of the Rings, all those other sort of fantasy things you can draw on, but I think there is something very, because it's the real world, very ingrained in the fantasy version of the West that we can all draw upon for the fiction we're collectively building. And I thought that was very interesting about the setting.
Yeah. So we started off in the Double Dog Saloon, and we're all hanging out there having a bit of a meeting about. So the Friday is the Saturday is 2 weeks after the Friday in game. So it's like a setup,
which I didn't know actually until we got
it's
there.
a cool mechanic. But the hanging out, having a meeting, we're talking about our grand opening and like all this stuff, and like we're talking about me and Mr. Taffy had a conversation about how we're going to split the money. So 30% goes to me, 30% goes to him, and then 40% goes to the crew type thing.
Right.
And that's how we're going to split money up. And we're talking about this, and like Ruben was like, I was like, oh, apart from you, Ruben, I'm gonna make sure you get looked after. Don't worry about that, Ruben. And he was like, oh yeah, okay. And I was like, it's a tax thing, Ruben. Like you don't want to get taxed. I'll sort all that out for you. And he was like, oh yeah, definitely. That sounds great. And it's just like, oh, poor Ruben. But the I also want to say a huge thank you to Ruben and his lovely lady friend. I won't say their names, but they made me a birthday card that had a little raccoon on it. It was they're so fucking sweet and nice. Anyway, so then this young lad comes over and he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for the cavalry," and I'm like, "Why are you looking for the cavalry, son?" And he's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna join the cavalry," and I'm like, "Why don't you have a sit down with us?" And we sit him down and it's just like, Have you tried crime? And he's like, well, I've never really thought about it. I was just like, well, it's a lot less rules. You know, you're a lot less likely to die. You can go and do whatever the fuck you want, you know. And he's just like, well, no, I think my heart's really set on being a fucking, in the cavalry.
Yeah.
And the cavalry have made a really awesome group.
Yeah, they look so good.
They all play kind of like people that have seen too much shit.
Yeah,
like,
bear in mind we're like a far out frontier town as well. We're like we're the edge of the West kind of style.
Yeah, and I like the way it's like there's this, in 2023, like especially being guys, like, hey, me and him will happily talk about our emotions with each other and moments and stuff like this. The Wild West, you drink and you bury that shit deep down inside you. And it's not going to fester there and become anything bad at all later on, Like,
I like the fact that their uniforms are cool, but they're all a little bit raggedy at points, right? Mm-hmm. They've obviously, like, this is obviously not a plum gig, right? If you're the cavalry stationed out here, you're seeing bad action and all the traumatic shit's out here. Nobody wants to work here. There's no real benefits, and it's shit pay and a quick life.
And you probably have seen and done things that probably aren't good for the soul. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way it is for a cavalryman out on the frontier,
They're great.
Yeah. So he heads off and becomes their bugler.
Yeah. Did he have a bugle? Did he turn up with one, or did he?
I don't know. They either had a bugle or they made him the bugler, but I love that as a concept, that they're like, so congratulations, son, you're in the cavalry. Here's a bugle. Yeah. And it's like, oh my god!
Good.
Like, exactly, yeah. So we basically had a bit of a powwow, kind of got ourselves together. We had a really nice person come over and offered to be our medic, but we're kind of this is a problem. This is one problem with the system. Well, no, not with the system. It's not with the system. It's the way things develop. When you're in a gang, you can't just let anyone in. And that kind of sucks. Because you need to have, like, in character-wise, you're like, we can't just let anyone join the Sticky Hand gang and be part of it, right? So we kind of had to turn this person away, and that sucked. Because I hate turning people away from the game. But we did, and we got a few other people that are closer to us in. But just to make a point of, like, nothing about the player was like, no, not this person. More like the characters were like, no. So
yeah, I mean, I think also it's one of those things where, like, I kind of get sort of semi or honorary kind of inducted into the gang later on, but this doesn't happen till late on Saturday.
Yeah,
and I've done. Bear in mind, I'm doing a lot of stuff with the Sticky Hand gang throughout the course of the event.
I love the fact that you were so independent.
Yeah,
I know that's so ridiculous, but like you were. I was like, ever so often, because I was doing my Hennessy Jones thing, right? I'm off doing my thing. But ever so often I'll look over and be like, oh, fuck, is Ian okay? And you're off chin wagging, shenaniganing, like you're just doing it. And I'm like, fuck, I don't need to worry about Ian. If Ian needs help, he'll come find me. It's just like, look at him go, you know?
I think that's one of the things in LARP. Also, I think, I don't know, I used to think it was because we did the podcast that we both went off and did different things at LARPs, but I think it's actually just the way we both play is a little bit, it's similar but different. Also I think weirdly sometimes when we play together it's more like a treat than it's like a nice tasty dessert when I get to play with you, and not necessarily a main course that I would want all the time.
It's just fun seeing you have a good time.
Yeah, I love it, dude. It was great.
Robbing the stagecoach.
Okay, let's get this out of the way. So basically, it became aware that there was this attempt to basically use sticks and put them into the stagecoach thing. And I think you've said this in the previous one, but basically there's a cool mechanic in the game where if you want to walk the short distance between the two towns, which is like an OC short distance,
pay $1.
$1 to basically walk the distance. And that goes inside this little box.
Yeah.
There was a cool thing of basically people using sticks with like sticky bits to try and get the dollars out.
Yeah.
And I was like looking at this and like Jasper's very much like the kind of person who's like, that's some amateur shit going on right here. Like, so I was like, you don't need a stick, you need like a weight on like a droppy thing that you can drop in and that is sticky. And that I can kind of like, you can quickly wrap up and deploy and stuff. So I made like this thing out of like leather and a piece of metal, basically that I could just quickly like flop in there and just basically go fishing.
Okay.
And I started pulling out money to the stage where over the course I'll just do it all in one encapsulation.
Yeah.
I think there would be a legitimate argument for saying that I robbed enough money out of the stagecoach. They could legitimately say that the stagecoach has crashed, like financially been ruined.
I think it. And bear in mind, I've never robbed out that box. I've assisted people while they've robbed out the box, but I've never done it myself. I think it should be made clear to the player base to not thieve money out of the stagecoach.
I think
because mechanically, what are you doing at that stage?
I think, yes, I think we're literally, I was envisioning it as like we're holding up the stagecoach, or we're catching up like or we're like basically taking the money out of the
guy's pocket.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, right? I treated it like kind of petty crime. Also, I brought a parasol for Phyllis. So I would get Phyllis to basically stand there, put the parasol up, and basically kind of cover us as we were putting money into the stagecoach, which was not. I always did put money into the stagecoach. I just then took out the money when I came back to it later. But I think if this is a problem with the game, bear in mind, I was introduced to this as if it was like a thing that people were doing. I was not told it was wrong.
I actually think that I really like games like Second Breakfast, because there's only one event left at to Flying Lead. The economy doesn't matter.
Yes.
It actually doesn't have any material value in the game whatsoever.
Yep.
If anything, it's just a mechanic to, hey, I'm going to pay you to be my bodyguard. Yep. Right? Like that. It's kind of like the money, when you get to a certain point, especially with how much money I have at the moment, it's like fucking ludicrous.
Also, being a gambler, you can make a lot of money very quickly, as I did.
And so the money's more like a MacGuffin to do things with rather than some hard mechanical thing. So it's not for me. I don't think it's that bad of a thing. Let me put it this way: I found on the Saturday Wyatt and Phyllis trying to rob the stagecoach, which is a little box, and I was like, "It's clear neither of them had ever done crime before."
Amazing.
Because they were so obviously up to no good that it wouldn't take a fucking super cop to realise what they're doing. But for them, they were having the best time ever dipping their toe into a bit of crime.
It was so funny.
And
they come up running over to me a bit later. It was like, Jasper, you got to help. We're going fishing. You've got to help us. And I was like, say no more.
Like, it was like watching, like, you know, like naughty kids.
Yes,
like,
it was
one of
very
them's
naughty
a
kids vibe.
lookout, and one of them's trying to steal, and it was just like, oh my god, you two are, like, you are bad at crime, but you're having the best time.
It was so fun. It was fun to be like, my little superpower was I make money from the stagecoach, and I reliably make money from the stagecoach.
So I'm walking around. It's Friday. Everyone's like mingling and stuff like this, and then I turn around. This guy, like, either I bump into him or he bumps into me, and he's like, makes like a threatening fucking things towards me, and I'm like, not threatening, but and I'm like, do I know you, friend? And he's like, oh no. This guy turns out to be this guy called Junior, which is the best antagonist ever. Like, he was like, just as much of a bastard as Hennessy is, he is also a absolute bastard. And us meeting each other was just like, we're talking politely to each other, but underneath all this is like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
So,
you know?
I spoke to him OC at the end.
Yeah, he was really good at checking in.
Yeah. But like, he immediately, I had a feeling this was the inspiration he was drawing, but he immediately reminded me of Charlie Prince from 310 to Yuma.
Yes.
Who is like a real, like, psycho son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely, like just a terrible person to have around, but has this kind of veneer of like faux.
Well, it's like the Hennessy thing, right? Yeah. I'm really polite. I'm even polite while I'm threatening you. Yeah. But like, and then the violence happens, right?
But I think there's a difference with like the Junior / the Charlie Prince character is like, there's a little bit of psycho in there that's a little bit different from how from how Hennessy is.
Hennessy's rational. Like, Junior's a wild man. He's a mad dog. Right?
Yeah. Like he kind of needs to be put down, like, because he's actually like fucking crazy.
Yeah,
you know.
And there was some really nice tension in the evening with him. Like, someone was like, "Hey, let's go to the cat house," and he was working the door, and I was like, "I'm not giving up my guns to fucking Junior. Yeah, there's no fucking way."
See, talking about that, you see again using 310. You'd remind me a lot more of Hennessy. Reminds me a lot more of fucking main guy. From, The main anti, like the bad good guy from 310 to Yuma, played by.
He's
Russell
not necessarily a bad guy, but he will do bad things.
Yes.
Right.
He survives on his terms.
Yes.
While Charlie Prince, who is part of his gang, is an absolute fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
And they're both bad people, but in different ways on that alignment chart. And that's why I liked the little clash between you guys. Was very tasty, very spicy.
But there was an incident where Nora, who's one of our cohorts, might have been threatening people with snakes a little bit.
Also, Nora is one of those characters where she herself is a bit wild, a bit reckless, and has a little bit of the...
When I heard about it, my version of what happened was, because I wasn't there and I didn't see it, was that Nora threw a snake at someone, and then Junior shot her, and then Eve tried to get involved, and he shot Eve as well. And I was like, as Hennessy, I was like, cool. This sounds like a Sticky Hand Gang problem, not a Hennessy Jones problem.
Right.
Okay? Like, because we're separate entities. Like, I don't know if that's clear in the game or not. But, so Nora was like, oh, yeah, fuck, I'm going to go and get him. I was just like, you should go and call him out to high noon.
Yeah.
And, Nora heads up there and fucking starts shouting at him and then calls him out to high noon the next day.
Yeah.
Really fucking cool. But, like, from Henny's point of view, it's like, problem solved.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Nora can shoot him.
Yeah.
I don't even need to be involved.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
I think he ended up getting shot as well.
Oh, did he get shot in that encounter as well?
I think, so my version of events, and either one of these could be true.
Yeah.
So Nora basically had snakes dangling from her belt.
Yes.
But I think she kind of, May, who's the player, had set them up in a way where just through walking around, they naturally fall off.
No,
I
don't think they naturally fell off. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, but I think they did a whole bunch of times. But I think also she's kind of like dropping them,
there
putting
was
them out,
a
throwing
few.
them at people.
In fact, snakes are one of the most deadly mechanics in the game.
Yeah.
If you don't have a
trapper,
well, you can't handle it if you're not a trapper.
Yeah.
If you get bit, you have to have a tonic in 5 minutes and see a physic within 15.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're dead.
Yeah.
So it's one of the most... Getting shot is not the most deadly thing.
Yeah.
Snakes.
So I think she kind of accidentally on purpose was having snakes fly out, basically. That caused the scuffle. She got shot. I think Eve shot him and he shot her. So I think it was a three-way shooting, and then hence they all got shot, and very spicy as a result. But the main kicking off was between Nora and Junior, and as you say, this built up over the course of the whole event, and was very spicy.
Really good. One guy came up to me who was like part of the McCaw boys.
Oh yeah.
And
is this John?
Yeah. So Taffy paid the McCaw boys to be like, associates.
Yeah.
And I paid them an extra $20 each to be like, you're my guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Like if anything kicks off, like you're my guys. But he came up to me and was just like, "There's a Bigfoot in the woods," and I'm like, "What?"
I heard a whole bunch.
There's a winking fucking Bigfoot in the woods, and I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking?" It's like, allegedly, this Bigfoot walks out, looks at them, winks, and then walks off. And it was like, there's actually a Bigfoot in the woods. I never saw this Bigfoot.
I heard a whole bunch of times people talking about the Sasquatch, and there was like a bit where I think a bunch of trappers went off, and they were trying to basically make some bait to draw it in and set up like some kind of ambush and all this kind of stuff. I don't know how any of that transpired, but it sounded so much fun.
Fuck, that's such good trapper game though.
Yeah.
And to have an actual fucking Sasquatch running around the fucking woods is like one of those things. It's like, it's great because it's like, for Hennessy, that's not Hennessy's game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to have interaction with the Sasquatch, but to know there's a Sasquatch out there, fucking amazing.
I think, from what I can gather, John from the McCaw Boys is like a trapper, and he basically built, like, what was cool was I kind of like loosely hang out with him at various points over the event, but like he'd actually made his, because the traps are basically these little boxes and things that you set up in certain areas and you just kind of like tie them like ribbons, but he'd actually gone to the effort of like bending sticks and making little frames and things.
Oh, cool.
I mean, not that was actually a trap, but like looked like a trap. I thought that was really fucking cool. And like, so I saw like a bunch of times there was some kind of like rare birds that were in the area that people were trying to catch that were worth a certain amount of money.
Okay.
Like some rare swans or something or whatever, I don't know. But there's certain feathers that you could attach to your traps to make them attract this kind of prey. And then if you like loads of really fun game like that. But it was also like, again, people who are playing this game would understand a lot more about it. Like the way you dress up your trap, I think increases the chances of essentially reward. So it was just, I thought that was really awesome.
That's baller.
Like really cool ideas about people putting effort in and it panning out.
I really feel like, this might have been happening before, but this event especially, loads of people got their specific game.
Yeah.
Loads of people. And it was really, really nice. So I was going to be a marshal, by the way.
Yeah.
I was going to be a deputy. A sheriff's deputy.
Yeah.
I went to I saw all the sheriffs and stuff talking. I went over there and I was like, "Oh, I'm a deputy," and they were like, "You own a business, don't you?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Well, it's a conflict of interest, so we can't give you a badge." That's bullshit, by the way. I want to say that right now. Bullshit. Like if you're in a town and you own a business, you're exactly the sort of person that needs that would be wanting to be a fucking deputy because you've
got a stake in the town.
You got a stake in the town, and I think that's bullshit. I want to stake that for the record. Ain't right. I want that badge. Also, so a nice lady had said that she was making cakes for people's birthdays because a few people that had birthdays there. Yeah. So Ruben comes over and like gave me a cake at one stage. Also, Ruben's going away and keeps coming back and telling me bits of information, saying, Mr. Jones, like, there's this thing happening. I'm like, oh, good, good. Stop interrupting me, Ruben! Oh, that's actually very good. Well done, Ruben, for telling me that. Gives me a cake, I eat the cake. For the French lady, she's like got this platters of cake. She's like, these are just normal cakes. I have shortbread, I have this, and like these are birthday cakes. If this is your birthday, I'm like, well, it's my birthday, so I will give you your cake and a song. And I was like, all right. So I have this cake. And she sings me Bon Anniversaire, the French happy birthday song.
Amazing.
While I'm making awkward eye contact with her and just shoveling this delicious cake in my mouth. Fuck, it was so funny. And then, like, someone else came over and had a cake, and I was like, are you going to give him a song? And she's like, it is not his birthday. And I'm like, how about you sing him Farajaka instead? So she sings Farajaka to him. I'm like, the best way to eat this cake is to try and maintain eye contact with her while she's singing while you eat the cake. And I was just like,
oh my god,
why not try like head, shoulders, knees and toes in French? It was just really fucking funny. Like, that's absolute highlight. Really, really funny.
So another thing, obviously, because I'm playing somebody who knows your character, I'm kind of keeping my ear open for Hennessy gossip.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to play it like, there's history. You saved me from the gallows, essentially. So, I hear that, like, basically one of the Dalton boys who I'd met earlier, who this kind of gang, if you like, or kind of group, was like potentially was like had a badge and was a Texas Ranger, and was looking for Hennessy Jones, and they were kind of bringing up Hennessy Jones quite a lot. These are players that we know. Well, they were actually part of the crew, but these are like people we know, but also just really cool people. But the NPCs were really awesome, and this was one of the cool things. Like, the NPCs and the players are very close, and at stages, the way that the NPCs are integrated into the town. Like, when I was first introduced to them, I didn't know that they were crew. I assumed they were players, and they were like a group of 3 brothers, the Dalton brothers. And then I was like, oh, okay, so one of these is like after Hennessy. So then I kind of went and sort of told you. Then I was kind of keeping tabs on them to make, because there was a bit where they were kind of watching you as you were kind of like walking around town. So I was kind of like, it was one of those kind of things where I'm like a couple of steps behind watching them, walking along with Phyllis. We kind of like do this thing where we like pretend shop. And it was just a fun game, right? It's one of those kind of bits of game which you can do a lot, but doesn't really amount to anything. But it's just fun, because all of a sudden you're in a spy movie, or like...
It's layers on layers on layers, and everyone's doing their own little thing, and it's like, everyone's watching everyone else, and everyone's being their characters. It's fucking great, dude.
So, like, Wyatt comes over, obviously, prospective husband, and I'm just like... Wyatt, you wouldn't happen to walk... This, by the way, I'm doing this fucking lisp the whole time. I'm like telling him basically to sort of move so I can basically keep an eyesight on where the Dalton brothers are. It was so good. And that was the other thing. People were like trying to get me to say certain things with this lisp all the time. And I decided that, like, for some reason, I couldn't say syphilis. So whenever people would talk about it, like, I would be like, syphilis, all these kind of different ways of saying it. It was just stupid, right? Dumb shit.
Phyllis, by the way, insisted on not getting my name right at any point. She called me Heresy entire
Jones,
time.
Yeah, so good.
Heresy Jones. And do you know what was funny is that she was like, I've gelleted Ian.
Yeah.
And this became like a verbiage
Yeah.
to basically get someone to work for them for free.
Yeah.
Which I don't appreciate, by the way. From my Empire character. It's not very funny.
It was funny, and it was like one of those things where we're walking along, and I'm like, what is the relationship here between Jasper and Phyllis? And we were kind of like, because we hadn't really had a lot of time to set stuff up beforehand, right? And as we were playing, it's like...
Do it in game.
Yeah, we did it in game, and it worked really well, because it's like, of all the characters she's been around, like, I am not one of the husbands. right? We're rogues who met each other on the road and became the Silver Foxes.
You can spot your own, right?
Yeah. And it's like, I kind of had this whole thing of like, Jasper actually cares about Phyllis in a sort of like he kind of views her as she's proof that like living this lifestyle, you can live that long and you can keep gaming all the way, right? So he kind of like, her surviving is one of those things where it's like, it's important. It was fun game to be like, probably the one person that Jasper cares about is Phyllis, although he would never actually say it.
I love that.
It was fun. It was really fun.
Ian, shall we make this into a 2-part?
I think we should.
Yeah. Let me do a dice roll for
13
patrons.
people.
Yeah, D13 roll.
Yeah. Thank you so much to all of the Patreons. And obviously, thank you as well to all the people who ran the game as well. It was incredible. But yeah, massive thanks to all our patrons.
Number 4, Ian.
Which is...
actually... let's get the name right.
Elliot Goddard.
Thank you, Elliot.
You're a
we
star.
Really appreciate
Thank
it,
you
pal.
so
much. We will join us again next time for a rooting, tooting time, and we'll do the rest of the event.
Yeehaw! Yeehaw!